Okay, so continue to vote. That is, you're right, Celeste. That's unusual to see both of those two polls kind of not diverging, but right in line with each other. All right, so we had a chance here to book an expert, and I think our timing's been really good on this. It's Jason Campbell. He is with the Middle East Institute, and with everything that's been going on now over the course of, frankly, really, I guess since about the start of the week when the U.S. began its renewed bombing campaign. We saw a sea drone used for the first time out there in the Strait of Hormuz. We did want to bring Jason Campbell back for another visit and find out, Jason, at this moment in time, where are we headed with the whole Iran situation?
Yeah, hi, Ron and Celeste. It's nice to be back with you again. I think we remain in what has been really for a number of weeks and now really a couple of months in this sort of nebulous gray area where we are not in a state necessarily of all-out war, but we are also not on a real firm path to peace. And within that sort of gray area, you have the opportunity to see trends move more towards what we've seen now is these proliferation of tit-for-tat attacks, more as a tool of coercive diplomacy, if you will, as each side tries to reassert its control and demonstrate its capabilities in the hopes of drawing a better or more favorable terms in some future undefined, unfortunately, diplomatic negotiation. Unfortunately, right now, I think we see between the two sides really a lack of continuity in terms of what are the primary areas of concern and focus. And unfortunately for the United States, what this has devolved into is really a battle or a contestation over the control of the Strait of Hormuz, which, of course, was not an issue on February 27th prior to the onset of this war.
Jason, I think the frustration with a lot of Americans, too, and share your thoughts for all you folks in the chat this morning. The frustration is that there's so much back and forth. We started to see those gas prices drop. I think for a lot of Americans, we're in a situation where we're trying to put food on the table. We're trying to fill up our gas tanks, take care of our families. And with all this volatility, I guess, with the relationships on the other side of the world, it's hard to know what's going to happen and really have trust in the system, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and as I'm pretty sure I cited, the last time I was with you now a number of weeks ago, is that, fundamentally what really is going to have to move the needle here are two unfortunate options that I think President Trump would prefer not to have to proceed with. One of those on the military side is to, again, try to force the Strait of Hormuz back open, which to really be able to do would require a vast escalation of the war. It would include the introduction of ground forces, perhaps tens of thousands of them, and really an indeterminate amount of time. So the costs associated with that, I think, are just unfeasible. The other side of that is to come to some, again, diplomatic agreement that would ultimately provide some level of payment or remuneration to the Iranian government, which we've already seen through the MOU has been nominally approved, and some ultimate agreement that doesn't look quite as good as the JCPOA that was signed by President Obama in 2016.
All right, so a couple of quick questions for you here. Number one, Iran has proven that they will attack all their neighbors if they possibly can with missiles, with drones, with anything else they can throw at them. So far, they don't have the long-range missiles that could threaten the U.S. homeland. Is that a risk in the coming years? Do you think perhaps behind the scenes they're already trying to develop a long-range missile program so that if we hit them, they literally could try to hit our homeland?
It's been certainly a topic of discussion and speculation now for a number of years. Iranian leadership has basically made public pronouncements that it will not be pursuing that type of a long-range capability. However, we did see, if you recall earlier in this war, they did launch a couple of projectiles, ballistic missiles towards Diego Garcia, which is down British and U.S. base down in the Indian Ocean, which is far beyond the range that we thought they had the capabilities to reach. Now, they weren't exactly accurate and they were taken out, but it was deemed to be some kind of a show of force. I don't know that this is necessarily a near or even medium term concern, but it's absolutely possible. And I'll note related to that is that while we did at the outset of this war have the ballistic missile program as one of the top priorities in terms of what needed to be relinquished by Iran, right now, because it has not gone well, we've seen the senior administration officials basically stop talking about the ballistic missile program and instead focus almost exclusively on Iran not getting a nuclear weapon.
All right. Well, yeah, that's a big enough threat, that's for sure. Jason, thanks very much. We love being able to call on you, get some real perspective. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason.
My pleasure. See you, Slick.
Okay.